Well, hello, welcome back to another wonderful episode of Joy and Gratitude. We are here to untangle ourselves, process life, and I want to hear what our topic is going to be for today. So I'm going to hand it over to my co host, Beth Mercurio.
Hello, Neo. Always amazing and a pleasure to see you. Yes, hello, everyone. We are going to talk about clarity today. And there's so much to talk about. But one of the things that I think we can just kick off with is, why is clarity important, Neo? Why do we even care? I mean, clarity, people must be thinking, why are they talking about that? Or what do they really mean by that? Or how is that a topic? And I think that's why I can't wait to talk to everybody, because I do think that when we think about clarity and we give clarity some intention and we work really hard to be clear, it can actually transform our lives. So it sounds like a simple word, and it is the most beautifully, deeply connected, complex word, because it's not easy to be clear all the time. But the things that can result from being clear and having clarity be a paramount value to you, I think, is what we want to talk about today. So, Neo, what does the word clarity mean to you? Why should people even care about this word?
Wow, it is such a powerful word. And it is a word that is in every single self help book and every single leadership book. And the reason for it is the intentionality of clarity. It's about something that we do all the time. And when we are talking in this wonderful podcast, we talk about
Mm.
the pause to reflect, the pause to dissect the uncomfortable truths about ourselves. Clarity is the only way you can move forward, the only way you can release yourself to achieve and to truly be there for your family, be there for
Mm.
yourself first. Clarity is everything. I mean, and we're attracted to it. If you think about it, the things we value when we look at getting married, we think of the diamond. The most precious diamond is that diamond that has clarity,
Mm.
right? And we actually have tears of clarity in that when we look at that diamond. When we go to the beach, we're looking for clear water so we could see through it and we can marvel. And we love the clarity that the ripples in the water provide from the glistening sun. Clarity
Mm.
is something that we in nature naturally geared ourselves to. Now, the thing about it is, are we willing to take that pause? What
Mm.
does that pause, what do you do, Beth, to get to your clarity?
Oh, I'm still there. I'm right now on the beach. You took me, you spoke in such a soft, beautiful tone that I was like, oh, I'm in the clear water. And you're right. I mean, being able to be in that space. I love water. It does something magical for me. I'm like, I don't know how to show my tattoo really, but waves and water is a part of my tattoo. So, yes, clear water. What a beautiful example. I think the pause and what that gives you. So sometimes I often use the word spaciousness, right? So when we think about that pause, we're creating space instead of being in that normal sort of more rushed way. We're actually just slowing ourselves down, taking a pause. And I really do believe that in the spaciousness, that is where we're able to be a little bit more clear and a little bit more creative. But the clarity comes from your ability to, when you're slowing down, and let's say it's a mindful walk. Like for me, oftentimes my version of slowing down is to go be out in nature. So either, like you said, sitting on a rock, looking at clear water, going for a walk. Those are some of my go tos. All of a sudden, I may still have, let's just be clear, in slowing down, I may still have a lot of thoughts popping into my head. I'm not sitting there with no thoughts. And I know, I'm sure many people listening that have mindful or meditation practices know that the expectation of doing something like that is not that you're not going to have a million thoughts coming in and out of your brain. It's just to quiet them and allow them to come in and, sort of sort themselves out. And that's where I think clarity can come from, is just allowing yourself to not run with one of the many thoughts, allow them to come in, and then maybe be a little bit more choiceful, a little bit more creative. So that's the first step of that. When we talk about spaciousness and we talk about creativity and innovation, which we've talked about quite a bit, I
Mhm.
think the one thing maybe we haven't said out loud until right now is that the first piece of that is getting some clarity. And some of the way in which you can do that is, once you've taken the pause and these things are coming into your brain, one of the things that I love, me with somatics and body, is listening to, like, how is your body reacting? And I'll tell a little quick story because it feels super relevant, where I was struggling with being clear on something, like wasn't sure which path to take, which direction to take. And I knew I wasn't feeling great, but I had a whole bunch of just different scenarios I was creating. And I ended up talking to somebody who ended up sort of repeating the scenarios back to me. And the gift of that was, I am still struggling, and maybe there are humans that can do this and do it really well. I'm struggling to be in my brain creating scenarios of what I could do, looking at different pathways and feeling deeply how it resonates. So I had this beautiful aha the other day where somebody else was doing the scenario creating. I mean, they were all my scenarios. It was for me. I had
Mhm.
shared my dilemma. But as they started repeating them back and expanding, doing the trampoline of listening, actually, a perfect example of someone really listening to me and then building on different scenarios or repeating the scenario back. And the beauty was, I was able to feel my reaction. So one of the examples, well, you could do this, I would be like, "Ugh, ooh, I don't want to do that." It became so clear to me what I did not want to do. I wasn't exactly sure where I wanted to go, but I was able to move a bunch of scenarios off my list because I had a physical reaction to, like, I'm never going to write those words. So apparently that's not going to be one of my choices. So I think there is this beauty in pausing, allowing scenarios to come in, and then dropping back into ourselves and our body to be like, what feels good? That clarity can come from allowing ourselves to have a reaction, to feel joy, to feel excitement, to feel confusion, to feel frustration. All of those are beautiful signals to say, oh, and that allows you to kind of narrow in and get more clear on where maybe you should move forward, allows you to take that step instead of feeling stuck.
Yep, I totally agree. And I understand the beauty when you were stating how it was so helpful for someone to give you that vision of, the different things that you were thinking of, or were, just having another voice state it was powerful. For
Yes.
me, it's reading it. So I love writing. That's kind of obvious. But so one of the questions you did it this week, you sent me a text, I believe, or an email, one of the two, that said, "Hey, do you read your joy notes?" And I said to you, absolutely, that's how I find my clarity. And it really is. It helps me actually think deeper about myself and understand what makes me uncomfortable.
Mm,
So, as I am trying to be a lighthouse to others and give others insights, I also have to make sure that my light doesn't flicker. And that's how I do on a weekly basis review back my joy notes to help me focus on what I need clarity on and what I need to work on. Because what I've learned is it's really easy to get comfortable, and I want to live my life, understand what's uncomfortable, and being able to work through my things that are uncomfortable to me. Um, and clarity is such a big thing,
mm,
that when you have chronic illness, you are always seeking. this week's a perfect week that, um, yes, I travel for care. I mean, I went to this wonderful doctor in Nashville. I live in Georgia. I go to Boston for care. I go to Nashville for care. I go anywhere that I can find a specialist in the field, to get clarity and to
Mm,
actually get myself well. And I went to this wonderful physician, and she just painted pictures of what was happening to me that were so clear that I actually was having feelings based on what she was painting. And she was giving me and this is a body trigger, and this is what you need to do to
mm,
counter it. That was, for me, a perfect definition of clarity. It's when you dissect the situation and then you start saying, ah, that's what triggered it. That's what caused it. That's that person's reality, not mine, but their reality of it. But this is how I feel well in moving past it.
mm,
Because clarity is powerful release of a situation into a new framing of where you want to take it, what you want to do with it, who you want to be because of it. And, I'm grateful for that wonderful time that I had in Nashville, and the doctor that I'm working with. But I wanted to give that to those that are dealing with, some form of struggle. It doesn't have to be healthcare. It could be anything. You have the power to dissect that situation
mm,
and start figuring out how to manage it for you, because we are all unique. No one can tell you how to process anything. You have to figure it out. You have the answer inside of you. You have to figure out your processing. And trust me, when you take that pause, when you look at it like a kaleidoscope, every facet, you will find what makes you the uncomfortable truth become a light.
mm. There's so many things that I would like to say, but the first one is I love this idea of the multiple ways in which you can reflect. So when we say pause, I think it's also when we're talking about clarity in particular, there's this idea of reflection. So you're doing it with your joy notes, and I had another human reflect back to me, right? There's so many different ways, but I do love that this idea of journaling, your blogging, whatever you want, writing, whatever it is a way for you to do it for yourself. So if you're not ready, because sometimes it can be vulnerable to, because you, like you said, you're identifying something often. If it's not clear, it may be tied to some emotionality. There may be reasons why you're sort of struggling, because otherwise maybe it would be very clear. This is the step I'm going to take, and I'm just going to move forward. So usually there may be something that's maybe causing some hesitation, potentially something that doesn't feel good. So I love this idea of, all right, so figure out for yourself, what is a way where you can implement some reflection? Can you do it yourself, mind, body? Some people probably can in their meditation, mindfulness. They probably have a beautiful practice. And if you have practices that are working, like throw them into Go to Joy and Gratitude. Tell us what they are. We would love to learn. I also wanted to say for those of you uh, Nio just mentioned her joy notes, but just so you know, she blogs these beautiful notes that really expand on all the things that we talk about in the podcast. So we should throw that in there too for people that maybe haven't yet seen your joy notes in a consistent way, a way for them to come along for your ride, because there's so many incredible nuggets in there that just keep us in this space of growth and learning, which is really where we are, getting untangled and constantly working through that. So those were a couple things that came to me. And then this other piece is sometimes because it can be uncomfortable, I think we avoid it. Or we go to our classic, we've talked about our shadows, our saboteurs,
Mhm.
the things that keep us stuck. And I do believe that when things are messy and unclear and foggy, we can often get stuck in those places. So, when you talked about clarity and leadership, And you're right, clarity is in so many books right now because it is so tied to how we show up. And Brene Brown, who I know I mentioned quite a bit on the podcast, wrote a book called Dare to Lead for leadership. And she specifically says clear is kind, unclear is unkind. And it sticks in my brain all the time because when I am struggling with clarity, I have to remind myself that if I'm trying to massage a message, try to make it easier for someone to digest, I'm clearly worried. I'm in my people pleasing mode. That's exactly what's happening if I'm shifting an email to try to accommodate the fact that I'm angry, frustrated, devalued. There's a million things. That's actually about me if I'm struggling to make it happen. So I always have to remind myself of that saying, and it really has carried me very far. Clear is kind, unclear is unkind. So if you are in that space of struggle, remember that clarity, as you just described, think of the diamond, think of the water. We all want that because we know how to react when something is very clear. When it's not very clear, it throws all of us into our kind of messy spaces, and it makes things blurrier, foggier, messier. So I think that's another beautiful way to think about it, is to say, how do we look at clarity as it is discomfort? There's some discomfort around a lack of clarity, but also that the importance of getting to clarity is that it allows for kindness. It allows for a one-to-one, not messy interaction because you've been really clear, and they hopefully will respond in a clear way. And maybe they don't, but at least because again, all we get to control is ourselves, that you were clear. You came from an authentic place. You thought a lot, took a pause, and decided to share your truth in an authentic way with whoever you're in relationship with. So that piece has always helped me when I get really uncomfortable and I watch myself trying to, make the message feel better for someone, that I'm not being clear. I'm really not with what's
Yeah.
happening for me.
And the thing about it is, I love the fact that you really went there. Clarity is not fake, it's intentional.
Hmm.
It's not about making that message soft to the point that, you've been in that conversation with someone and they talk for an hour and you have yet to understand what their message was
Hmm.
because they're trying to make it palatable. And in using so many words, they lost the whole room, and and you get that in announcements, you get that in public speaking, that you go to an event and you're just like, what was that topic? I don't even understand it. When you are authentic but empathetic about delivery,
Yes. Yes.
then the kindness comes through and the clarity comes through. This week, another lots of things that I had some really tough messages this week that I had to share with some collaboration agreements that I have. And they were uncomfortable. They were really uncomfortable messages. But as I was putting together the message, I knew that I had to be clear about what the issues were. I couldn't sugarcoat it because that would have been
Mm-mm.
a disservice. And all I did was basically set the stage of what had happened, asked if everybody had a similar understanding of the occurrence. So I got input as to, are we seeing it all the same? And when we did have one person that was a little bit off, they explained why they saw it in that fashion. And that was actually helpful in crafting the message of, well, this is what we need to solve for.
Mm.
So the clarity comes when you are intentional that the goal is to make something better and it's not about demeaning someone in the process. So if you keep to that goal, then everybody's working on clarity of the purpose, clarity of the situation. You're not working on personal judgment.
No, it's you're making me giggle because, of course, I knew this, but sometimes when we talk these things, these big aha moments, but what you just described to me made me think about the issues clearing model, right? Which is the
Oh yeah.
conscious leadership group's issues clearing, which is to gain, information from people, make sure the facts are known,
Hmm.
and you focus on the facts. This isn't like all of the things. It's like, here, do we agree on the facts being the primary piece? Because from there, you can then say, how do you feel? Right? What do you think the best move forward plan is? There's a lot of movement that can come, but establishing what everybody understands to be the facts is super, super critical. But even just the name of it, issues clearing model, like the clearing part, not only is it to clear with someone, but as I said, I'm like, well, right, because it's clarity, the clarity of what is it that I see the issue as? Do you feel it's an issue? Maybe you didn't even know it was an issue. And that's where I do think bravery and courage comes from when we speak about clarity, because I think it's really easy to just kind of go, "Ugh, I don't want to deal with that. You know what? They think that they must think this, or the minute you're creating a story about what somebody else thinks is your moment. Like if you need to know when you should stop and take your pause and figure out clarity, it is the moment you have decided where you start to create a narrative about like, oh, Neo, she was this today. So, oof, she must have this going on or that going on. That's not my problem. That's her problem. And she brought this to the this is where we all have to hold ourselves accountable. The moment you start to do that, you are in a moment where you need clarity. You need to clear something that's going on for you.
Hmm.
And you need to get in touch and start to build connection and relationship with that other human where you've started to create the story. So, and there's like, part of the tool for how to clear with someone is literally to say, the story I make up is, which is a beautiful way to go. That's really what it is, because I don't know whether that's true, but I'm starting to create a story for myself. And I do think it is the moment you see that you are making up a story that you go, I think I need some clarity right now so that I don't make it messier. Isn't it ironic that we think by avoiding it, we don't want to make people upset, or we don't want to, because that's usually what it is. You're like, I don't want to, maybe it was a bad day, maybe it was whatever. But all of that protection or avoidance, whatever you want to call it, is just us staying comfortable in a
Yeah.
way, moving to the place of people pleaser, using one of our saboteurs. But the true brave thing to do is to take your pause and really say, how do I get to a place where I can say this? And I love that you said it, with empathy, that I can still clear, that I can seek clarity. And that is the goal. The goal when you're in a relationship with someone is to move forward together. Isn't it always like, you don't want to stunt that. You want to be able to say, how do we come to a place where we can move forward together? And I love that. Yes, get to be an empath, but that can only come from real clarity and a real goal to move forward. And I think you started the podcast by saying clarity is what enables us to keep moving forward on our path, that allows us to stay in flow and move, which is part of what we talk about all the time. Ideally,
Absolutely.
we want to be moving. We want to be moving forward towards what we care about, towards what's most important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about that intentionality that we talked about early in the podcast. We talked about the accountability, the flow, and the release, because clarity is fluid, and we are releasing our preconceived notions, and we are actually being in that space,
Mm,
as you beautifully stated before. So, this has been an eye opening event.
clarity.
um, and now I think of the best song, which would be the joy song for this session. And I say, I Can See Clearly Now by Johnny Nash. It is the perfect song.
I
What
love
do we
it.
have in Gratitude Rocks?
Yeah, let's see. Here we go. Let's look. What's today's gratitude rock? I'm going to dig a little.
Digging deep.
It's
Ooh, that's pretty.
it's a
It's a
pretty
it's a
green color
green.
for people that can't see it. And the word is explore. And I think that what's coming up for me very clearly is if we stay in a place of curiosity. So as soon as I think I gave kind of examples of the moment where you are creating a story or a narrative, the moment where that discomfort is clear and you watch yourself kind of go back into our classic saboteur shadow worlds of things. If we can just say, like, let me explore this a little bit more. Let me put myself into a pause. Let me put myself into a mindful moment, a moment where I can explore what's going on for me and my body physically as I think about these scenarios. Let me explore possibility. Is there something else that is going on for me? So I actually think that exploration is a critical and incredible component of clarity. And so I kind of love the word explore as we think about clarity.
It is the essential word to clarity because we're really exploring to find that clear path. It's not going to be on the surface. You're going to have to dig a little deep, and then you'll find your flow. And with that, we'd like to end with joy and gratitude as we flow on to the next chapter.